Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to a NerdTube Season 2 recap of Lower Decks. I am Cousin Cheeto, and I'm joined by Korath, the Klingon Ambassador. How are we doing tonight?
Um, Doing okay. Not going to complain.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, since we're here to talk Lower Deck Season 2, they've seen us talk a lot about, and we might have a guest come in and out. It just depends on if he can make it or not. But we've been talking this season about Lower Decks, but we've been doing the review of the individual episodes. So since you've pretty much heard all of our thoughts on the individual episodes, and I think Korath, you really hadn't joined us for some of our earlier episodes. So maybe I'll get your opinion on some of these earlier episodes.
Yeah.
But really, just let's kind of break down the season as a whole, look at kind of each of the characters maybe, and just see, how we feel that the characters were treated this season, how the story and how the overall premise was treated as a whole this season. So I do want to kind of get your episode, your first your God, okay, start over. I do want to get your opinion on the first couple of episodes. So like starting with Strange Energies, which was season 2, episode 1. This one is where Ransom becomes a demigod, becomes a big giant floating head, and we get to see a little bit of Blemler on the Titan.
I thought it was a lot of fun. Especially talking about how being vague was saying it's strange energies, and likening his conditioning or his experience to that of Gary Mitchell from the original series, second pilot, excuse me. And Tana like, all we got to do is drop a rock on him.
Yeah.
And so she goes and gets a 24th century forklift to the big giant boulder to drop on him. It was a lot of fun. It was interesting. I wish there would be follow-up. We saw Beckett Mariner at the beginning cleaning off the buildings on the planet and discovering all the artwork and everything that was on the buildings underneath this, the dirt and smudges. And of course, she uncovered the whatever thingy that affected Ransom. But I'd like to know in the future if the people of the planet decide to clean off the rest of the buildings or not, and what else there might be found under all that grime.
Yeah, might be nice to revisit them next season. Maybe in the one of the episodes they might revisit, and do some other. We get to see some follow up to all that. How did you feel about like this is the first time we had really seen Mariner and Captain Freeman kind of out in the open with their heritage, like Freeman being Mariner's mom. Do you feel that was done and was handled correctly, or?
Yeah, knowing the relationship they have so far established between them, I felt like it felt normal and natural. I beg pardon if I yawn a bit. It's I'm a bit sleepy. And new medication, well, not new, but the medication the doctors have me on for pain management, getting me a bit groggy. Anyway, yeah, I enjoyed what they're doing with the relationship between Beckett and Freeman, or Mariner and Freeman, excuse me, Beckett being the first name to the last. And I really liked in the episode seeing as I recall, this is the episode in which trying to remember what was happening. I know we saw Boimler on board the Cerritos a bit, but I don't remember what was happening. I do remember this was the episode that started with Mariner in the holodeck playing out a scenario in which she has to escape from a Cardassian prison camp. And she, for the first time, we find that the Andorian female that's been on board is named Jennifer. And so that was kind of fun to see Beckett going through all of that, doing the everything in the holodeck.
I love how she just kind of jumped on board a updated Miranda class and just kind of escaped this Cardassian prison. Like, I mean, suck it, Picard. You know,
Yeah.
like, I mean,
Yeah.
one of the other things that I thought was really interesting in this episode was and I just lost it. You heard going to the brig at the end, even though, you know, she's been out because she didn't listen to the captain, and
Yeah.
you know, she started kicking Ransom in the balls, you know, over and over and over again. And I think she got a little too much pleasure out of that.
Yeah.
All right. So
and, she was in the brig, and she scrawled on the side of the wall in the brig, Mariner's playhouse or castle or something like that, with hash marks recording the time she's been there.
Yeah.
I thought it's interesting. According to Memory Alpha, the official Star Trek wiki, Jennifer was named by the actress Connie Newsom, just improvising. Just came up and named her Jennifer just on a whim.
I mean, Jennifer's got a Jennifer type name.
Yeah. And according to Memory Alpha, in the episode I Excretus, we see on a screen that Jennifer's last name is Shirayan, which is an Andorian name.
Which is a reference to our boy Jeffrey Combs' character, Captain or General Shran.
Well, that's
right?
Shran. She's Shirian. And she's following, apparently, according to Memory Alpha, they're following the Andorian naming procedures that were given in the tie-in book that came the Deep Space Nine post DS9 books.
Deep cuts. Okay, so episode 2, K-Shawn, his eyes open. This is the introduction of the Temerian security chief.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least for a short time, now that we know now. He comes in. I mean, you know, we get our little funny plugs with you know, the Temerian in that episode with Picard, and you know, they're going to a collector's station who has since passed on, and they are wanting Starfleet to catalog everything and to deal with the dangerous stuff that can vaporize them. In this episode, then we see many Easter eggs. And we also, so what happens in the long run is the other collector tries to steal Kales's sex helmet or fornication helmet. I don't know what they actually call it, but it's a sex helmet. And so then he dies because giant Spock falls on him. And then, you know, shenanigans ensue. The Temerian in the beginning gets turned into a puppet by some kind of something or other. I don't remember what it was. And then, yeah. So, what were your thoughts on this episode? This was a very Easter egg heavy episode, as well as I think we visited Blimler on the Titan, and they were doing a mining colony mission, I think.
Yeah. This is the one where Boimler decided he needed help in escaping from the planet or the ship. So he purposely did the transporters twin splitting thing, so there'd be two of him. And we ended up with Brad Word and William Boimler. And just a second. Of course, Kailash the Unforgettable, his fornication helmet.
Yes, the fornication helmet.
There's
a lot of fornication things that go on in this series, because in the next episode we'll get to in a minute, there's also something about fornication.
This one started with the Communal sonic showers,
Yeah.
and
Was this the one that
everybody in
started
there,
with that?
yeah, and
Oh.
everybody in that kind of showing themselves off. Um, I don't know. Of course, I grew up watching Star Trek as a kid. Most people over the age of, well, 30 certainly, grew up watching Star Trek as a kid, and the idea of seeing these communal showers would have been a shock to us as kids. Um, so it's another step towards making Star Trek more adult, uh, more, less kid friendly.
I
But
mean, I feel
hey,
like this show is very geared towards adults anyway. So
yeah,
I mean, you're going to have your Prodigies, which is coming out next week,
yeah,
which is more geared towards kids,
yeah,
and then so and then you have Lower Decks, which is geared more towards us who grew up with Trek, and we are yada yada. And
yeah. But I enjoyed the episode. I liked the introduction of Vincent Jet Manhaver, um, who was filling in for Boimler while Boimler was on the Titan. I would like to see more of him in the future. I wonder. I think it's too bad if he was just a one-off character. He has potential, and there was some friction, of course, between him and Mariner. So it'd be interesting to see if anything would develop if they would bring him back.
yeah, I mean, I do feel like in this season they missed a trick when they didn't have Blemler on the Titan for a while. I really was upset that they didn't do that, because I felt like they just kind of like they just found any excuse to bring Blemler back and make him an ensign again, which really infuriated me. And as anyone who watches our reviews knows, I was hugely upset about that they even demoted him, even though there's no reason to demote someone. I mean, he's a transporter clone. I mean, Riker was technically still a lieutenant commander when they found him.
Yeah,
He was still
yeah,
his same rank. They're not like, well, you should go back to, lieutenant. No, I mean, it made no sense. I could see if the transporter accident happened prior to him getting promoted, and
right.
then they get him, and then but no, this was after he got promoted. So I feel like he should still be a lieutenant junior grade. And I don't know how they would have worked it, but I kind of wish Blemler would have been on the Titan for a little bit longer, maybe half a season. I agree with you. I think that Jet should have had a little bit more time to shine, other than just one episode. With the cast and crew, because I did kind of enjoy the little back and forth with Mariner and Jet. It was a change of pace, and I kind of like that. But yeah, I mean, this was just a huge Easter egg episode that they said that we're going to throw everything we can think of in there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And my favorite was the no, I say favorite, even though it's a sad and solemn thing. The skeleton of the giant Spock clone from the animated series episode, The Infinite Vulcan.
Yes, there can only. I never watched the animated series,
Oh
to my
mate,
dismay. I
um,
know I'm bad. I'll get to it eventually. I do need to watch it because that's the only Trek I have not watched technically. So, but did the clone Spock die at the end of that episode,
no,
or no? Okay, so he
no,
lived, and then he eventually died, and then the Collector got his remains.
yeah, because I
Gotcha.
mean, people have been speculating, ever since it was decided that animated um, Trek would be considered canon. People are like, "What about the giant Spock clone? Are we going to see him again? Can they bring him back? Would they bring him
Yeah,
back
that would have
without
been great if
Nimoy?"
they. Yeah, that would be great if they just had like a giant Leonard. I mean, obviously he's passed, so
Yeah,
I mean we can't do that. But it would have been great to see like just a giant Leonard Nimoy in some kind of reference.
yeah. So
Um,
here's a skeleton. He's dead. Don't ask
right?
how or why.
Yeah, don't ask how or why.
Okay.
Okay, so were there any other Easter eggs you want to talk about, or
That's the
I know
only
you want to
one
talk about
off
the
the top of my head I
fornication
can
helmet
remember.
of your Lord and Savior Kalis.
I don't want to talk about the fornication helmet. I would have my own fornication helmet, but then I would need to find someone like Kayla's true love, the Lady Lucara, and that's not likely to happen anytime soon. So fornication helmet would just sit on the shelf in the corner and gather dust while
No, you and
I
me
gather
alike.
dust myself.
Yes, right? Don't we all? Okay, so we'll always have Tom Paris. So this is the third episode. This is the episode where what's it? I can't remember the actor's name. I used to know it. Tom Paris was
Robbie Duncan McNeil.
Duncan McNeil. That's it. I was mixed something. So Tom Paris returns to voice himself as a lieutenant, not as was he a lieutenant at the end of Voyager, or was he a lieutenant junior grade?
He was a lieutenant. I don't remember if they
'Cause he was a,
advanced him beyond that, but he was a lieutenant.
yeah, well, no, I know he was a lieutenant at first, and then he became an ensign again because he got demoted, and then I think by the end he got promoted again. But I didn't know if I haven't watched the end of Voyager in a while, but
Me
I
neither.
didn't know if they gave him junior grade or like the full lieutenant pip.
I don't remember.
I
It's
mean,
been a
poor
few
Harry
years.
Kim, he didn't even get a promotion.
Right, not during the series at all. No.
And Zam's not here to defend his boy. So it was good to see him back, though. Although I kind of wish, maybe he would have. I mean, I guess being lieutenant's fine. Maybe lieutenant commander would have been nice to see because this has been a couple years after Nemesis.
Yeah, he should have been, like a captain or something by this point.
No, not a captain.
Okay, at least commander.
Okay, I was gonna say lieutenant commander, but okay.
Okay.
If he, so we have Blumler, of course, geeking out over Tom Paris being there. He wants him to sign his Voyager commemorative plate, which has him on it. So he's carrying it around there. I was expecting that stupid plate to break all episode. And so, of course, Blumler's. Go ahead.
That's a wonderful real world sort of Easter egg because those plates are real. My dad had Next Generation commemorative plates, so yeah.
So I mean, so Blumler's also having issues with the computer recognizing him, as being back on the ship. So he's of course not being able to get through doors and such. He's crawling through Jeffrey's tubes. Eventually starts talking to the plate because he's hallucinating. And also in this episode is Tindy and Mariner go on a quest to pick up Dr. What's her name? Ta'ana's libido post.
Mm-hmm.
And of course throughout the episode shenanigans ensued again, and this post gets broken many, many times to the point where they're trying to talk to the underworld. They're going to the Orion. I don't know if they're actually on the Orion homeworld, but they're in like an Orion Syndicate outpost or something like that. And of course, Tindy knows somebody because she was a part of the Orion Syndicate at one point. Yeah. And so it all turns out that Dr. Ta'ana just wanted the box. And that's a very, very anime. That's a very, very lower decks thing to do.
Yeah. She's a cat. Cats do boxes.
Well, they also do scratching posts. So, I mean, I could see it going both ways.
Of course, you're skipping over the most important.
I was getting to that if you're talking about who I think you're talking about.
I don't know that I am. Go ahead.
And also Shax returned in this episode.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, let me finish.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then Shax is back. So Rutherford is, of course, trying to figure out why Shax why Shax is back. I feel like if anybody on the ship had a reason to know how he got back, it's Rutherford, only because Shax sacrificed himself saving Rutherford.
Right.
And even Rutherford says in the episode, he says, I feel this guilt. Like, I need to know, how did you get back?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it, like, that they didn't, like, that other people is kind of out of place for them to ask him. But, like, Rutherford's like, no, you sacrificed your life for me. Like, I want to share with you how you got back.
Right.
And I mean, they do this whole thing where they don't actually tell you what happens. And, it's probably some Easter egg for something that I probably am misreferencing or something. And, talking about twin moons or something like that, or I don't remember.
Well, of course, there are so many in the previous Star Trek series. There are so many times that characters died and returned that, of course, Lower Decks wouldn't know about. Like I say, the most egregious was the episode Obsession of the original series, in which in the very first scene, recurring character Lieutenant Leslie dies in the first scene, and then in the very last scene, he's back on the bridge with no explanation of what happened.
That's what we like to call continuity.
So yeah, I mean, how many times did Spock die? How many, Kirk died, McCoy died, Scotty died. People die, but no, are brought back. It's like death has no real meaning in Star Trek.
Well,
It
at least
seems.
in the original series.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there's some shenanigans with Data, I guess, that you could say that. But,
Yeah.
I mean, and even Tashi are a little bit, but that's more time travel shenanigans, not
Yeah.
just regular shenanigans. But yeah, I mean, I see what you mean.
They started to try to give it gravitas with Star Trek 3, Star Trek 2 and 3. But, I mean, even that, it's cheapened Spock's death to a degree. But no, the most important thing that we got that was introduced in this episode was, of course, Klingon acid punk music.
Oh, I did forget about that. Yes, you are correct.
Because as a Klingon myself who loves acid punk music, to hear it finally in one of the shows is so heartwarming. It really gets me going, gets my blood pumping, and gets me right in my right in my liver.
One of them?
Yeah.
Don't Klingons have multiple livers? I feel like they do. They got like multiple redundant organs.
Yeah.
What did you think about this episode?
I enjoyed it. I enjoy everything going on, really. Trying to remember when he ran into Curzon Dax again, or excuse me, Jadzia Dax, and she says she knew him because every time it rains, this whatever gives him a pain, and I'm trying to remember what part of his body it was that was hurting, but
Oh, you're talking about Worf?
no, a core.
Oh, core. Okay.
But I'm not going to look it up right now. But yes, that's the part of my body that feels really good knowing that there's Klingon acid punk actually on the shows. I mean, we kind of sort of got a glimpse of it on the Voyager episode Real Life with the holographic Klingon kids.
Yeah.
But man, this is great.
That's the one with the doctor and his family.
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was really fun was just Tindy just like being a spaz this whole episode, like wanting to impress Dr. Ta'ana the whole time, and Mariner just being Mariner,
Yeah.
But I really like that not Ta'ana, that Tindy got a lot of time to be like a badass in this one.
Yeah.
What did you? Oh, and I love the part where Blumler comes through the roof of the bridge, and
yeah.
And then Tom Perez says Kazon,
Yeah.
and then he just jumps at him and beats the crap out of him. Okay, well, episode number 4 of the season. I don't remember when you joined us for reviews, but I guess we'll just keep going. Why not? We just Magato Gamato. Right? Am I saying that right? Because I have since educated myself a little bit on this creature from the original series. I know I got a lot of flack when I first had no idea what this thing was during the trailer, and then I still didn't have much of an idea when we got to the episode. But really, I mean, in this episode, it really just seemed there was a subplot where they were where the bartender was telling the other lower deckers that Mariner was a Section 31 agent, which is here nor there. I mean, I thought that was dumb, kind of like a dumb thing to kind of do. It didn't really get too many laughs out of me.
Right.
The Ferengis that I can't. This one I'm a little hairy on. Were they were capturing the Mugatos, right? That's their actual name, Mugato.
Yeah.
They were capturing the Mugato. Were they taking their horns?
Yeah.
Right?
The Ferengi were running an operation, illegally capturing Mugatos to do something with their horns, to harvest the horns.
Yeah.
I don't remember if they were selling the horns on the black market or using them themselves. But yeah.
And in the end, I think it's Rutherford and Blumler who convinced the Ferengi that it's more profitable to start a Magato. What's it called? A Magato sanctuary.
Yeah.
So, which I kind of find funny that the Ferengi would go with that. Like, I feel like there would be more money in for them with the horns, but like from a Ferengi point of view, I'm glad the Magatos are safe.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, there wasn't really much in this episode. There were some interesting shenanigans. Rutherford and Blumler got to have some time together, just like in the previous episode. Tindy and Mariner had some time, so it was actually kind of nice to see them pairing people off into different pairs for once.
Right.
Anything else interesting about this episode that you noticed? Or
Yeah, the title itself is kind of an in-joke reference.
Yeah.
Because in the original series episode where Magatos were featured, which was called A Private Little War, even though the script said Mugato,
DeForest
different
Kelly
actors kept mispronouncing it. I know D. Kelly kept saying Maguto, and somebody kept saying Gamato, so that's where the title came from.
Yeah. So, okay. So episode 5 of the season, An Embarrassment of Duplers. So this was a very interesting episode where the Cerritos is basically on, the Cerritos is basically, they can't, the Dupler ambassador is on board.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever he gets, not offended, but like whenever he gets high anxiety, I think.
Yeah.
He duplicates.
Right.
And so, they're doing really good. They're almost there. Everything's going well. And then all of a sudden, I think the Dupler or Freeman was saying something to the person on the planet, basically saying, "Oh, this Dupler, he's so annoying," and yada yada. And then the Duplers, of course, standing off camera.
Yeah.
And so then he goes, "Wait, I'm an inconvenience," and then bloop, 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 and then he starts multiplying, and the whole ship is getting filled with Duplers. It's a very trouble with tribbles type episode.
Right.
And I think I'm reading a little bit here because this is another one. This middle of the season is just kind of, I don't know, a little hazy for me. Beginning and end is pretty good, but the middle is kind of where I'm not going to say they were bad episodes. They're just not crazy good episodes.
Right. This is the one. Part of it was on a star base.
Yeah.
And
aren't they driving around in the rover?
Yeah. And they had the
the party.
Yeah. And they had the what do you call them? Counterfeit or contraband data bubble bath
Yes.
deals that they were supposed to be transporting, not knowing that they had contraband Klingon weapons in the box hidden beneath the bubble bath.
Obviously provided by our resident Klingon ambassador.
Yeah, well, it wasn't me.
You can't prove it. I didn't. Go ahead.
To think of it, yeah, no, there is no way to. I'm pleading the fifth. I'm not going to comment on whether I was involved or not.
So in the end, I think is it Blumler and Mariner try to get into the party, and they cannot because I think they're trying to use Blumler's Titan status, maybe to get in there because his copy is on the Titan.
Yeah, it's a big deal party for top-notch Starfleet personnel, and of course they're lower deckers, so in theory they wouldn't be able to get in. But because he had served on the Titan and had been promoted to full lieutenant there,
he was lieutenant junior grade. He had the black belt.
Okay, yeah, junior grade JG. They figured that they could pass themselves off as something more than just lower deckers, and it didn't work out for him.
Yeah, and but also go ahead.
This was a great one for those of us who are fans of the animated series, full of Easter eggs. full of species, aliens that had not been seen since the animated series, um, including a Kzinti,
That's it.
including
Isn't that the one with the Kzinti?
there was one of the bird people that was seen in the episode Jihad, as well as one of the bug-like people. And it was great, just great. And then at the end of the episode, or when they go to they find the bar, and Mariner and Boimler are hanging out there. All the pictures on the walls of the bar are just Easter egg after Easter egg references to.
And carved there on the bar table is Kirk and Spock.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know that they were buddies. Well, I mean, I guess that could have been after the Academy. I don't know why I thought that was the Academy, but
it wouldn't have been the Academy, no.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a pretty good feel good episode, but they kind of went back. And I know that Tindy and Rutherford had a side plot with with his model of the Cerritos. And isn't this at the end? They had the model, like they talked about the model of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, and he was upset because there were bits and pieces in there that had strange markings in the model kit that he didn't recognize, and he's like, I'm sure that they're part of my previous implant, but without it, I'm never going to get them back. And eventually, spoiler, Tandy says, no. We never complete this thingy, this model. Every time we get close, we take it apart again so we can work on it again so we can have more time together of bonding.
So in the end, you see, and actually, Freeman and her command crew are not also allowed in the party, and they all join at the dive bar with Mariner, Blumler, and us. And at the end, Rutherford and Tindy are actually sitting in the bar too. So it was a very feel good end where everybody's kind of together and just kind of doing their, everybody's kind of cohabitating.
Yeah, they went to the party. Freeman and the senior officers went to the party as well, and were also denied entry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, okay. So with the next episode 6, we have the Spy Humongous. This is one where the Cerritos has actually got a big mission where they are to, I believe they're trying to negotiate peace between the Federation and the Pac-Led. So this is kind of the first time this ship is doing anything of true consequence, I would say.
Yeah.
To the Federation.
Because they are not dumb. They are smart.
Pac-Led are smart?
Cerritos is smart.
Cerritos is smart. So they have a Pac-Led that gets on board, and he requests sanctuary, and he wants to see their warp core. And yeah, I mean, he's obviously a spy trying to get information.
Yeah.
So I mean, shenanigans ensue with that, and I think it's Ransom and is it one of the lower deckers, or is it just one of the other main, like Stevens or Bill Billups? I can't remember. Are taking care of the Pac-Led on the ship.
I think it was Ransom and the Temerian guy.
Oh, you're right. It was the Temerian. You are correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Which the Temerian, I guess I don't know if we're gonna go over each individual character, but that's a very me and Zam have brought this up many times as the fact that Shaxx coming back is a blessing and a curse to us because we like Shaxx, but at the same time, it kind of cheapened his death. And I mean, we get the joke, like we understand the joke that they're making with it, but at the same time, we felt like we were getting introduced to this Temerian character that was really cool. And he just kind of got benched like right after that.
He's still around though. He still shows up and does stuff. It's just not
every now and then, but we were kind of hoping for more for him. I mean, they made him pretty prominent in the trailers, and that's why we were like, oh yeah, it's gonna be great. Anyway, okay, so back.
Well, I was hoping more when they brought Worf onto DS9.
Worf did a lot on DS9.
I know. I'm joking.
Okay, so there's jokes that go on in this episode about, pack leads with like there's like a queen, a king, and an emperor, and they all have like their hats get bigger and bigger as they get up the thing, and the one pack lead is spying on the Cerritos, and I mean they're basically giving him tours of I don't even know, like it was like stupid sections of the ship, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They got him like the super secret gift shop and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is also the episode that Blemler kind of joined the red shirt crew, which is
Right.
where they're the command crew or the command crew wannabes or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
They're kind of like trying to groom Blemler into being more of a like a command type character, instead of trying to distance himself from the lower deck, like Tindy, Rutherford, and Mariner. They give him like the padded uniform, and they kind of give him they give him a haircut, and it gets a little bit of gray in the side, so he looks a little bit more distinguished. And he gives some really nice Picard-like speech towards the end of that story,
Right.
because I believe that's when Tindy turned into like a scorpion
Yeah.
type thing and was running around trying to kill people.
Yeah. But
And
it was more of a Riker-like speech because he said, "I'm channeling Riker."
oh yeah,
They
that's
said,
true.
"Well, you worked with Riker, so what would Riker say?"
That's true. You are correct. You remember this in better detail than I do. I mean, so
I brushed up on it.
I mean, I got the thing here, and I watched a couple episodes, but
I
like
have
a couple episodes prior to doing this, but I didn't have time to watch all of them.
I have a friend who's doing watch throughs on YouTube, so I've been watching those
Yeah, nice.
as well.
So in the end, Blumler saved Tindy from being a scorpion with laughter,
Yes.
and I think Captain Freeman and who was on the planet, was it Shax? I think Shax was down there too.
Yeah.
They kind of, I'm trying to remember, did they beam themselves out, or how did that end? I'm trying to remember. They had a plan to attack Earth with a Venetian bomb. The lower decks crew used the submanifold casting stone they recovered during their cleanup to prank call. Oh, this is the episode where they prank call Armis.
Yeah.
Oh, that was rough.
Yeah.
That was rough. Poor
And
Armis.
this is where, of course, we saw the Gazinti crewman again, as well as Jennifer, the Andorian.
Yep, part of the red shirt crew. Although you figure in next gen era, you're safe as a red shirt crew. In TOS era, you are not safe.
Right. But you really were. It was really kind of, people exaggerate, but I've seen the statistics on it, and really, no, they didn't.
I know. I think almost just as many blue shirts died as red shirts. I think
I think more did.
But it's just, the
beside
meme.
the point. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the meme.
Yeah.
Statistically, though.
Yeah. Red shirts didn't die as often as the others.
Maybe that's why.
But that's beside the point.
Yes. We don't like facts here. Okay. So now we get into episode 7, where pleasant fountains lie, and I know this is a reference to.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the actual. There's an actual reference in the title, and I think it's like either a Shakespearean reference. I don't remember. I remember hearing about it, but Billups's mom sends a distress call out, and the Cerritos answers the call. And when they show up, it is, of course, Billups's mom, who is a queen, and Billups is a prince. But Billups's first love is to the Cerritos. And so Billups is supposed to be king. His mom keeps trying to get him to be king, and all he has to do is get laid. And so throughout the episode, she's trying to covertly manipulate him into, being, maybe becoming king and whatever. And in the end, what she does is she has a a plot where it makes it looks like she gets destroyed, and as well as Rutherford, because Rutherford was on the ship too when it exploded,
Right.
making it seem like they had died. So of course Billups now then has to stand up for his people, and he has to go and he has to get laid so that he can become king.
Yeah.
And in
They mentioned that they're from a Renaissance festival planet.
which is hilarious because they have they have Greek, like in the TOS era they had Greek god planets, and I'm glad somebody acknowledges these planets
Yeah,
because that
TNG was full of Renaissance planets.
was it TNG was.
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah,
thought it was mostly TOS, but yeah, I mean it was pretty fun.
yeah.
So okay, so back on track. So Billups is getting ready to become king, and then Tindy is like she just can't believe that Rutherford was gone. She was tracking his implant and going to find him, and she found him in a banquet hall
Mm-hmm.
with Billups's mom.
Right.
And so she had fabricated the whole thing to get Billups to get laid.
Mm-hmm.
Confession: when I first heard this episode, or when I first episode first aired and I first watched it, I thought that they meant that Billups's mom was trying to have sex with her son, and I'm like, that's what I thought they said, and I'm like, what?
Right.
Like, what? Like, I was like, okay, are we really getting this weird and that like incest in this episode? Like, because I didn't know if they were going like the whole like, well, this is their culture and this is what they do type thing, and I'm like, but thankfully I was wrong and I misheard. But still,
Right.
I was like, going into this episode, I was like, wait, what? What's
Yeah.
going on?
And of course, this is the episode where Mariner and Boimler are transporting. It was Mariner, wasn't it? And Boimler, yeah, who are transporting the evil computer that
Yes.
had
Yep. And the
been with them
return,
for the planet. And
of our dear, lovely Jeffrey Combs,
yeah, Jeff Combs,
General Shran, and Wayoon,
and a couple of others.
and a couple of others. But those are the big ones. Those are the ones
Yeah.
that I remember off the top of my head. I know he's
Yeah.
been many different things. He's even been two different. He was Brent also.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, Jeffrey Combs is a national treasure. They need to they need to give him a reoccurring role on Lower Decks. Like, just make him like something. I don't know. But Jeffrey Combs is a gem and a godsend to all of Trekkies alike, almost as much as Q.
And he said I was too tall to be an Andorian, and I pointed out that in the original write-up of the Andorians, they're supposed to be tall and thin. So no, I'm not too tall, but I am too fat.
I don't think so. I think I think if you had a mom that was an Andorian and a dad that was a Tellarite, you'd be fine. That's your backstory. That would be an interesting backstory. Could you imagine?
Yeah, I met
anyway.
A few years ago here at the local horror convention, the Crypticon. Jeff Combs was one of the guests, as was there were a handful of people who had been on Star Trek. But I was excited to meet him, as well as Brian Thompson, who played a handful of different roles, including a couple of Klingons. So I went and met both of them, and they were hanging out together and kind of welcomed me into the little party.
Ooh, nice.
So that was fun.
Yes. Hey, styling and profiling, Korath.
Yeah.
Okay, and then also in this episode, yeah, as you said, Blumler and Mariner were taking the supercomputer, or the sentient computer, which was always trying to get himself plugged into something computer-wise so he could infect and take over. In the end, Blumler tricked the computer, plugging it into the what am I thinking of?
He'd rewired the ship so when he was plugged in, he was into nothing.
Well, no, he was working. What was it? I'm looking now. It was the distress. He was merely using him as a battery to send a distress signal. He stunned Blumler, stunned Mariner to gain his trust, got him in there, and then of course Blumler and Mariner have their little sorry session about Blumler going to the Titan even though this stuff happens in the military. Well, it's not the military, but you know what I mean? Like any kind of militaristic type organization with ranks and everything.
Yeah.
This stuff happens. People get reassigned, people rank up, people go other places. That's one thing that this show really, and we can get into that in a minute, but episode 8.
Well, don't forget, at the end of the episode, the computer thingy called Agamus was sent to the Daystrom Institute.
Yes.
Which, of course, is the reference to Richard Daystrom, who had created a sentient computer in the original series and installed it in
Daystrom Institute is mentioned in a lot of Trek.
Yeah. And they put it on the shelf with a whole bunch of other sentient computers that were causing trouble, one of which bore the logo for the CBS television network.
Well, that is definitely a sentient computer.
It's just, of course, biting the hand that feeds them.
Of course.
And then the next episode was I Excretus.
You want to take this one? I'm kind of tired of doing the explanations. I mean, I can do it.
A consultant arrives on the USS.
Oh, God. Okay. Here we go. So in this episode, a consultant arrives on the USS Cerritos because they are trying to do performance evaluations. And they're trying to figure out, and what in this performance evaluation, what they're doing is they're swapping roles. So now captains are now lower deckers, or I'm sorry, upper class or upper ranks are lower decks, and now lower decks are the upper ranks. Senior officers. That's a better word. There we go.
Sorry.
No. You are correct. Senior officers is a much better term. So anyway, you of course get your Borg, you get your Klingon Kobayashi Maru type parts. Mariner keeps falling because she gets in the naked now scenario where everybody's naked and doing each other and stuff like that, and she just automatically tries to kill herself or fail herself. Maybe not kill herself, but fail herself. Blemler's going over and over and over in this Borg simulation trying to get 100%. Tindy is in charge of sickbay, and she fails a couple times at a couple medical ones. And then Rutherford is which one was he doing? He was I
remember he was in doing a spacewalk in one of the suits. Or was he Star Trek II Wrath of Khan?
Was he Wrath of Khan or was that Mariner? Man, I don't remember now. So basically what happens is...
Rutherford's test put him in the engineering section of a refit Constitution class.
You are correct. And then he tries to open the door and then it burns him. And then, you get this beautiful shot of a Connie class. I have to admit, I'm not a fan of the Connie class, but it was a beautiful shot of a Connie class. And it just explodes.
Right.
So, I mean, so all of this is going down, and eventually Freeman and Mariner kind of come to appreciate one another. The senior staff are like, oh, I can't believe we're, this is so nice being a lower decker, and they're sleeping in the bunks. And all of a sudden, there's emergencies happening. There's Borg and Kazon and Klingon attacks and stuff like that. And all they're telling them to do is stack boxes. And they're like, we can help. So, I mean, I still think that's kind of a lame excuse to give the senior staff a lesson, because if that was happening, I'd still be like, okay. So
I would mention another shout out to the animated series. The evaluation of the crew was being done by a Pandronian, which was a species originally seen in the TS episode Bem. So great.
And it was a guy in that one, right?
Yeah.
And they can separate into 3 parts. I mean, I've seen images of it from when this episode came out. Like, everybody was referencing it, and I am lost on that reference because I have not actually seen it. I've said that before. I'm sorry. I will cut a corner off my Trek card.
One of these days you should watch, and
I have to. How many episodes are there? Isn't there only one season?
There's 22 episodes. Each was only half an hour long. So,
and it was the original voice cast, right?
It was the original cast, and they brought back the original writers too.
Yeah, I just think it was cheaper for them to do animated rather than do.
Yeah, I could go into the history of it, but I won't.
Yeah.
But
Probably not today. We can get into that in maybe like a podcast or something that we put together.
and we should do an episode of all the times Spock and other members of the original series crew died.
That is probably also be a good episode. So anyway, so long story long, the performance evaluator lady was setting the crew up for failure because they were basically saying, well, there was almost no use for this program in Starfleet, and she needed a win. In other words, finding a crew that really needed to be broken up and reassigned. Her department needed a win, and they found the Cerritos, and they were going to win until, and this is where this episode lost me, where they go to real life. Well, it is real life, but like real life scenario where they're going by like black holes and crystalline entities and all this other stuff. And they're freaking her out. And it's like, yeah, this is just a day in Starfleet. And I'm like, I kind of felt it was a little forced. I kind of felt it was a little stupid. Yeah. Like I feel like this lady would have known. Like, I get it. The lady doesn't have real world experience, like, you know, with actual like scenarios of danger. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like she should have known that Captain Freeman would not actually put her crew in danger. You know, like I felt it felt a little forced to me.
Right.
And Blemler was still going through the Borg scenario. I think he got his 100% and then he lost it. I think he actually failed, or I think he failed like 37% or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, but he's like, hey, did I win? And Tindy's like, oh yeah, flying colors, you passed.
Yeah.
Also, the return of the original Borg Queen voicing the Borg Queen in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember her name, but I know that was a pretty big deal too.
Alice Krieg.
Alice Krieg, that's it.
And she had previously voiced the Borg Queen in, of course, Star Trek First Contact and Voyager Endgame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she wasn't in every episode of Voyager because there were
just the one.
Yeah, the mom from she was. I think she was in the original one, the original episode. I think she showed up in the original Voyager episode where they met the Queen again. But I know in Unimatrix Zero, Part 1 and 2, it was the other one. Yeah, and I think there was one other episode that she was in. Anyway, so regardless, yes, and then definitely an Endgame, not Avengers, and definitely in the movie. Okay, so with that, we get into the penultimate episode, which is now I'm going to need you to pronounce this because I believe this is a Klingon word.
Wedge Dooch.
There we go. Which means straight from a Klingon's mouth.
Which means two ships.
Two ships. Two ships. I thought it was three ships. Because aren't there three ships in this episode? I thought they said it was three ships because there were three ships.
Hang on a moment while I look up the my handy dandy Klingon translator matrix.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to go into the description.
It is three. It is three.
Yes. I know Klingon.
Watt, shot, wedge. Watt, shot, wedge. Yeah, wedge is three.
Okay. Okay, so this is...
But really, properly, it should be wedge douche may. Because may is something you put at the end of nouns to indicate plural.
No, I'm getting a language arts lesson.
It's here. Creatures. It's creatures. It's only for creatures.
Gotcha.
Never mind.
So in this episode, the Cerritos is on a 12-hour warp. And so Captain Freeman assigned some R&R. So everybody in the lower decks is looking for a bridge buddy. Of course, Mariner is with her mom. Tindy is with... Who is Tindy with? Tindy's with... Aren't they with their kind of like their protege or their mentors? I think she's with Ta'ana, right?
I think so.
Rutherford is with Billups. And Blemler, however, cannot find a bridge buddy. And he eventually finds Captain Ransom. Commander Ransom, because they say they're all from Hawaii. Which we know by the end of the episode, none of them are from Hawaii.
Yeah. Rutherford is with Billups.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And Tana and Tendi were rock climbing.
That's right. The rock climbing reference to Star Trek V.
Yeah. and Boimler with the Go Climb a Rock shirt and the jet boots.
Yep. So also in this episode, we have probably your favorite part of this entire season. We see the lower decks of a Klingon bird of prey. And to
Yep.
be precise, it is a Devort, right? Devort glass? Am I
It's a
saying that right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. A Devort class. I see. I've played Birth of the Federation, so I've seen a lot of these names and stuff like that, and a lot of these stats and stuff from that game. I love that game. So the Devort class. Also, I play the Star Trek customizable card game, which is also a card in my Klingon deck. Anyway, long story long. So on this, it's basically the lower decks. We have a young, aspiring Klingon youth that is very honorable and is, very nuanced to the ways of some Klingons. Is that a correct way to put it?
Yeah.
In this, you can probably explain better than me. However, in the long run with this one, he's kind of doing what his captain says. The captain is doing things that are dishonorable, and the lower decker kills the captain and becomes the captain.
Yeah.
And I know there's more along the way, but I figure I'll let you take it from here. Cora.
Yeah. Mach was expressing his hope that he would be able to impress the Captain Dorg, and he felt that Commander Tog had been undermining Dorg of late. I'm reading from Memory Alpha.
The official Star Trek Wikipedia.
Realizing that Tog should be killed, Mach is hoping to be Dorg's logical choice for the next first officer. Yeah, it is tradition in Klingon culture, and of course, Mirror Universe Starfleet culture, that you advance through assassinating superior officers, and that's all it takes is to challenge someone to one-on-one combat and defeat them, and you take their spot.
I mean, you can become Chancellor just by killing the Chancellor.
Yeah.
Now, are there any rules like where it's like, you can't just have a lower decker come in, like a lower decker in the political spectrum come in, challenge him and kill him? Like, do they have to have a certain amount of prestige in order to have the honor to fight the Chancellor? Or
no, not really.
Okay, so he just fight from anybody.
But once that happens, once you defeat whomever, odds are everybody else who was vying for that position is going to come knocking on your door wanting to challenge you as well. As we saw in Discovery, when L'Rell became Chancellor, and then Cole Shaw tried to knock her off, which didn't work so well for Cole Shaw.
Correct.
But yeah.
So the third prong of this episode is the third ship, which is a Vulcan ship. And this is kind of the gag portion where it's like this lower decker Vulcan is doing her own research, and that's like taboo on a Vulcan ship. And to be honest, this is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of the first times we've seen a non-feder, like a Vulcan, like we have the Enterprise era ships where you have the Andorian ships, the Tellarite ships, the Vulcan ships. This is the first time we've seen a Vulcan ship or an Andorian ship in a canon Star Trek of the TNG era, correct?
Right. Yeah. We saw Vulcan ships in Enterprise, and we saw Spock with a Vulcan shuttle in the first motion picture.
Yeah.
And so whatever ship he had in Star Trek 2009.
But this also confirms the fact, and I think we knew this, but it kind of confirms the fact that they're Federation ships are Federation ships. There are still Vulcan ships. There are still Andorian ships. There are still, they probably act more like militia, in this aspect, but still they're all under the Federation.
And it was mentioned in an episode of the original series that they prefer to have a ship of mostly humans or mostly Vulcans or most whatever. Because they get along easier with each other, and it's easier for climate control for the whole ship.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. So that actually is a good explainer as to why there's only humans on the Enterprise, except for like Spock and maybe a handful of others.
Yeah.
I don't think we saw many other races besides.
Not the original series, not
Yeah.
on board.
So one of the things that they teased at the end of this episode, in my opinion, I thought they were teasing this for the season finale, was at the end of the episode, they dismissed the Vulcan lower decker, and they said they were going to be putting her on a Starfleet vessel because she felt that would help her with her emotional issues or whatever, emotion controlling issues, whatever, or it would be better suited for her talents.
Right.
And so I thought she was going to show up on the season finale. As well, in this episode, we had what brought all three of these ships together was they came across a Pac-led ship, and we did see the Pac-led lower deckers, and that was not that funny. But it was the Klingons and the Pac-led versus the Cerritos, and they were looking in a pretty bad way, actually.
Yeah, because we found out that the Klingon captain had been supplying the Pac-leds with illegal weaponry.
And I love how they gave them a bomb, like the Klingons gave them a bomb, and then they asked for another one because they didn't realize that they could only use a bomb once.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
I couldn't with them. Like the Pac-led are perfect. I mean, I know the Pac-led aren't actually like stupid, but like this stupid. But it's like, come on, like this race is perfect for this show. I mean, even though they do exaggerate a lot with them, it's still. So anyway, so it comes down, and then all of a sudden, in for the clutch, the run in from the backstage, Stone Cold style, is the Vulcan ship that kind of helps them out. The Klingon captain gets killed by the lower decker. The lower decker takes command and takes the bird of prey out. Now, was that a 12-man bird of prey, or was that one of the bigger, like 300 crew bird of preys? Because it looked
like it was a bigger one. It looked like there's more than a dozen people on board.
That's what I thought, because a lot of people just think it's like the small 12, like, because they say in the movies like that there's only about a dozen Klingons on a bird of prey, and I'm like, I know that there were bigger ones, like there were bigger ones, and they had a crew of like 300 or something. Those are some of the ones you see in Next Generation, because their size is actually a little somewhat comparable to the Enterprise D. Like, it's not nowhere near the size, but it's comparable still. Not like a little dinky 12-man ship.
Right. The first time we saw the bird of prey was in Star Trek 3, and that only held a dozen people. Yeah. That's why in Star Trek 4, the Enterprise bridge crew was able to, fly it with no problem.
Yep. So what they teased, though, is that this Vulcan would probably be going over to the Cerritos, and that this Klingon captain was going to factor, like, in this bird of prey was going to factor in the season finale. I thought that's what they were setting up in this episode. We get to the last episode. Do you have anything else for this episode?
I would just mention that the Vulcan was named T'Lyn, and the way she was depicted, she had a barrette in her hair, similar to the one that
what's her name?
Kim Cattrall's character Valerian had in Star Trek 6.
Yep.
Which
my favorite not my second favorite Star Trek, but my favorite of the TOS Star Treks.
Yeah, it's my favorite too. And I think that gives an interesting, I don't know if that's trying to send a message of some sort or not, but it just might be.
It might be a distant relative of hers.
Right.
Maybe not even distant, because they're Vulcan. So, I mean, she could have been living for a while.
I don't remember. I know there was one episode this season where people were in holodecks and suddenly the emergency. So everyone came rushing out as they were dressed in the holodeck onto the bridge and wherever the stations. And we saw people in the corridors in holodeck gear, or, kitted out. And there was someone who looked kind of like Patrick Stewart wearing an Elizabethan dress. I'm not sure what to make of that, but I don't know if this episode or not, but that caught my attention and made me smile and laugh. Because, of course, Picard and Shakespeare and all that.
Yeah. So we get to the season finale, which is First Contact. This episode features a Excelsior class inspired vessel with a movie era TNG, type of like nacelles and everything like that, which Excelsior is my favorite class of starship, which we all know. And they're going on a first contact mission. So the USS Archimedes is actually going to perform the first contact with Captain Sonia Gomez, who is a deep cut back to season 2 of TNG. She was basically a lonely little lieutenant junior grade, maybe even an ensign. I think it was lieutenant junior grade though. And she's the one who spilled coffee on Picard.
In the episode Q Who that first introduced the Borg.
Yes, correct. So the Archimedes is going to make first contact. The Cerritos is actually going to monitor a asteroid that is it's not on like an intercept course, but it's kind of like there's something, they said there's some kind of strange energies maybe that are going on there. And so, nothing will ever go wrong with that, right? No.
Right.
So they head to the system in a very beautifully shot exit, Star Trek 3 style, actually, of, heading out of space dock and then heading into warp. The Archimedes shows up, and then as soon as they're starting to approach the planet, a rogue solar flare goes off and hits this asteroid. And the asteroid just blows to smithereens, kind of like the Praxis event, looks like. Makes somewhat of a not a gravity well. It makes a gravity well, but there are these strange energies, and I'm looking for the name of them. I don't remember, but it's from an episode of Enterprise called Catwalk. And I can't find the name of the actual the actual stuff, like the energies that was in it. But what it does is basically it's toxic to humans. The only reason why the Enterprise crew survived it in the Enterprise show was because they got on the catwalk and the shielding around the nacelles was so strong. So in this episode, I mean, really, there's kind of just one goal in this whole episode is they're trying to make the Cerritos, make it so that they can get to the Cerritos to the Archimedes through this energy and tractor beam it so it doesn't crash into the planet. Because first contact will be ruined a lot by a starship crashing through the atmosphere and its opening going. That's kind of the synopsis of it. Of course, they get through and they do it, but there's a lot more that happens. But Korath, what did you think about this season finale?
I enjoyed it. Excuse me, pardon me, yawn. Yeah, there was a lot more going on than that. This is the one where they had to take all the deck plating. The hull itself plating off the ship and run on momentum through the
asteroid
whatever
field of stuff. And they also had the joystick, which see, I have my own. Right.
Awesome. And this is the one that it finally introduced cetacean ops.
Yes, very much so.
And we had the Beluga Whales trying to come on.
They were dolphins. They're Beluga Whales?
Yeah. And they were trying to come on to Rutherford.
Rutherford's a snazzy looking guy.
You're all sweaty. Why don't you come in and swim with us a while?
And then they get Blumler, so I'm sure that they were upset.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't you be?
Yeah. So speaking of Rutherford, in this episode, Rutherford's dealing with a bunch of spam boxes that keep coming up in his visual, which I thought it was funny because it does block the one, but it's like, why does it block both of his eyes? Because like you notice, like when it comes up, it kind of seems like it's blocking his whole vision.
Right.
Anyway, but that's just a nitpick. But so what happens is by the end of the episode, Rutherford, he's been triple backing up all of his memories with Tindy so that he won't forget her again. Right. And so what happened is Billups comes along and he's like, oh, let me see what's going on. He scans. He's like, oh yeah, your memory is almost full.
Yeah.
So he's like, you got to purge some of that memory. So by the end of the episode, what he does to clear everything up is he has to He purges all those extra memories, not all of his memories, but those extra memories.
Yeah.
And actually, we get a little tidbit of something that might go into next season. It shows two shadowy figures with a drill into his
And
eye.
and they're saying we're going to put this onto him whether he likes it or not, or something like that.
Yeah, we're gonna make him. They said it was like an elected surgery, or
Yeah.
but a lot of people have speculated it's maybe not Rutherford. It's maybe the original owner of the, because didn't he say it was a Vulcan? It was a secondhand cybernetic implant.
I don't remember that.
I thought they said that, but maybe not.
Possible, but I don't remember. Yeah.
Cetacean ops. I mean, that's all you got to say. This episode, gold. Cetacean ops.
Right. Oh yeah, the whole subplot of Tindy thinking that she's being transferred off the ship
Yeah,
because
that kind of fell to the wayside. I mean,
Dr. Tana was talking about deleting her file, and then we find no at the very end. She doesn't want to transfer her off the ship, just wants to transfer her out of
to the
medical
sciences.
into sciences. Yeah.
Yeah. So she still gets to keep the blue uniform.
Right.
Or she could go from white uniform to blue uniform if this was disco era, but
Yeah.
we don't talk about that. Okay, so I mean, pretty straightforward episode, action adventure, big set pieces. The animation was done beautifully. You could definitely tell they turned up the octaves on the animation in this episode.
Yeah.
Loved myself that Excelsior class. Oh, that Excelsior class.
And the last scene, the sequence.
Yep.
And the setup for next season.
Yep. Which, I mean, there's actually two setups, which would be Captain Freeman being arrested because a Veruvian bomb apparently went off on the planet of Pakled that was supposedly delivered when they were doing their peace negotiations a couple episodes back.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, the crew is up in arms, and Shax wants to kill people, even though they're all Federation there. They want to, it's like, oh, kill them. It's like, dude, Shax, chill out.
Yeah. Turns out Pakleds didn't know that bombs can only be used once.
Yeah.
So maybe this was the bomb that the Klingons had provided that they had set off, and somehow Freeman has gotten blamed for it. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm speculating.
Well, and the Pakled are not members of the Federation, right? I mean, I'm positive of that. I didn't think so.
No.
I didn't think so.
They're just neutral outsiders, and we saw a lot of them wandering the halls or the corridors of Deep Space Nine, especially on the promenade.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but you saw a little bit of everything on Deep Space Nine. Okay, so that's pretty much the season. What do you? I mean, we'll talk about the season as a whole really quick. Just like your favorite character, your favorite, what your favorite plot point was from this season, and where we want it to go next season. Because we're always wanting more.
As much as I want to see the follow up of the last episode and what's going to happen with Captain Freeman and the accusation of just that she was involved in treason and destroying the Pakled planet and all, I'm more curious about the Wedge Stooge episode and wanted to see the follow up of what happens with T'Lyn the Vulcan and the Klingon ship that was headed back to Kronos to inform the High Council about what had been going on with Captain Torg.
And I agree. As I said, when we were kind of on that episode, I said, I really feel like I was really hoping that episode, or that those two plot lines would kind of show up in the season finale in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And again,
but I feel like maybe now that it's kind of setting up, like probably the first episode of next season, maybe the Vulcan will show up on the Cerritos, and then throughout the season, next season, maybe the Vulcan bird the Vulcan bird of prey. Oh Lord, it's late. The Klingon bird of prey.
It is late.
Huh?
It is late.
The Klingon bird of prey would factor into maybe proving Freeman's innocence.
And I would like to see more of what was his name? Jet Manthaver, the ensign who was in the episode Kayshawn, His Eyes Open, as well as the was Kayshawn the the name of the Temerian, I believe.
I think his name was Kayshawn. Yes.
Yeah, like to see more of both of those characters and where they're going. More of the Kzinti, more of Jennifer the Andorian, and open up more about them and their backstories.
Would you be interested in seeing either spin-off shorts or like just a spin-off series, probably animated, I assume, of these characters? Like these one like Jet and Jennifer, and maybe they get transferred to another ship somehow, some way, and then they get like, it could be in the Lower Deck style, but it's like another show.
Yeah, and I would like to see an explanation. Find out where exactly things lie between the Federation and the Kzinti. So why do we have the Kzinti on board serving in Starfleet? And then, of course, they're causing trouble in Picard. I'd like to find out what's been going on with them. I'd like to see how much more of non-canon stuff will be brought into the series. Whether it's something like the Spock helmet or, again, the Andorian naming convention. I mean, this stuff's just...
What do you mean by non-canon? You mean by like from books, or you mean from like the animated series?
Tie-in stuff. The animated series is now canon.
That's what I thought. And that's what I thought. That's why I thought it was weird you were saying make it canon, and then I thought you were talking about the animated series. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure the animated series is technically canon.
Yeah. Now, it
wasn't as weird as it is sometimes from what I hear.
It wasn't for many years, but with the whole Alex Kurtzman took over, he said yes, it is canon finally. And that's a whole
contradicting.
That's a whole nother explanation as to why it wasn't for so many years that I won't go into at this point in time. But no, non-canon tie-in stuff like merchandise, like books and toys and games and things.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, basically, what I want to see, I do kind of want to see more of. I want to see the Lower Decks roster expanded a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's like Jennifer and Jet and all them maybe coming into the main fold. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see as much of the bridge crew. Mm-hmm. I know we will see them, but it feels like this season the bridge crew was very like integral to a lot of what was going on in this. And I'm like, when they proposed this Lower Decks show, I didn't realize that the bridge crew was going to be so involved with the Lower Deckers.
Right.
So, I mean, I expect to see them, obviously, and I expect them to interact with them. But, like, I kind of want them to more bring it down to the Lower Deckers more often and maybe expand the Lower Deckers ranks. As you said, like Jennifer and Jet and, get some other Lower Deckers maybe in there. Maybe get a cast of 6 Lower Decker or like 7 Lower Deckers instead of just the 4.
Yeah.
Instead of them just being side characters, because they really need to do some different pairings. Because in this season, they tried to pair off, the characters a little bit in this season, but not enough. And that's because you've only got 4. You've got 4 Lower Deckers. There's only so many combinations you can do. And honestly, the Tindy and Mariner episode felt a little forced, and maybe that's just me. Even Rutherford and Rutherford and Glemler was actually for like not even half an episode they were together. Right. But it was the only time I'd ever remember seeing them like doing something on their own together in that episode with the Ferengi.
Yeah.
So I really, really want them to more expand the Lower Decks main roster, and then kind of back off the bridge crew a little bit.
And if you remember in the episode Kayshawn, His Eyes Open, where they were trapped in the Collector's ship, and Jet and Mariner were fighting, and finally they turned to the to Tendi and Rutherford and asked, "Okay, do you guys have any ideas?" And they're like, "You've never asked us for, input before. You've already just told us what to do. But yes, we do have ideas." And they were the ones that figured out how to escape. Mm-hmm. So I would like to see more of that sort of, those two coming to the fore instead of just being followers, but taking their own initiatives.
And honestly, I feel like that can happen if they kind of expand the ranks of the Lower Deckers out. I also want to see rank ups. I mean, I'm sorry, like these guys have been ensigns. Well, Blemler's been a lieutenant junior grade for like 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But still, like, and I know that Mariner wants to stay an ensign. She's fine exactly where she is.
Yeah.
But Blemler, Tindy, Rutherford, they all want to rank up.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, like, not I don't want them off the show, but there's going to come a point where they can't be the eternal Ensign Kim.
Right.
There needs to be rank up. There needs to be
Right.
shake up. And whether they bring in new characters to replace these, which I really don't want, I would much rather follow these characters up in the ranks. And okay, so but even at lieutenant junior grade, do they get their own quarters at that point? Like, that's like, I think it'd be funny if like they get lieutenant junior grade and then there's like another floor with like junior grade barracks, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like this whole other floor of just junior grade barracks, and like
Yeah.
the bunks are like 3 centimeters bigger, and like
Yeah.
and they got like a better replicator or
Yeah.
something.
And
So
I would like to see more guest stars from previous series. In particular, more people from anyone from DS9 show up, and I'm friends with Tracy Lee Coco, the actress who played the background character Lieutenant J on Next Generation. So by golly, bring back Lieutenant J. Hashtag definitely have her on. If anybody should be on Lower Decks, it's her.
okay.
But yeah, I would like to see that going on. I would like to see, yeah, yes, I agree with the idea of promotions and more mix up of mashing of characters and
Yeah.
yeah.
And even though, and like, even let's say Blumler, Tindy, and Rutherford get ranked up, and honestly, I feel like Rutherford and Blumler should get ranked up, only because Tindy was brand new to the ship at the beginning of last season. So she's probably the last one, except for Mariner, who doesn't want to rank up. She's the last one who should probably rank up, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think Tindy might actually be Lieutenant Junior grade next season. If she's moving to a different department, maybe they'll give her a rank up. But also, I was kind of talking a little bit about the spinoffs. There's something that I would like to see is maybe with a different animation crew, do an animated series, but make it like, like you were saying, like you want to see other characters. Do a Captain, like a Captain Tuvok series. Now, it doesn't have to be called Captain Tuvok, but like Captain Tuvok, and like you can give him his first officer could be like LaForge, or you you could have LeVar Burton back, or Captain Worf, and like Commander like he would be first officer Tuvok at that point, not like Chief.
Right.
You could do that with a different animation style, and you could bring in some legacy characters. I mean, because you're not going to, unless you actually have them in the Picard show or in that timeline, you're not going to get and they're all going to be too old at that point to really, except for Tuvok maybe, to like do anything besides a cameo. So if you do an animated show in a different like a different animator, so it doesn't look like Lower Decks.
Yeah.
But if you do a different animation style and you do like, and that's where I'm saying you could have like Jennifer and like Kit, is that his name? I can't remember now.
Manhaven.
Like you could have those guys be like the crossover people and like have them transfer over, and they're like lieutenants or whatever, and they join the crew with Captain Tuvok and Commander LaForge, or I take any legacy characters. I mean, you could even have, Captain. I'm trying to think of another one. Like,
sadly, the one I would most want to see is Captain Nog, which is sad because of course the actor passed away.
Yes, he did.
And
yes, and actually, Nog is my favorite character on.
Yeah,
one of the most powerful scenes in Deep Space Nine is that Nog and Cisco scene. I love that scene. That scene is by far one of my favorite scenes ever in Star Trek.
And Nog really is what makes Deep Space Nine the best of all the series, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I mean, he goes from just this
character arc.
Yeah, his character arc is fantastic. That's why I tell people, like, oh, who's your, like I say, Deep Space Nine's my favorite. Like, oh, who's your favorite? Oh, I bet it's Worf. I bet it's, and I'm like, it's Nog. Like, Nog is my favorite. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great characters, but it's like, it's Nog, hands down. Like, that character arc is so great.
Yeah.
So anyway, so let's wrap things up here.
Please.
We can talk about all these spin-off shows and everything on some other podcast or something that we throw together. Korath, the Klingon ambassador, thank you very much for joining me for this Lower Decks extravaganza. I'm glad to have been able to go through all of this with you.
I'm glad to be here.
And I'm definitely looking forward to Lower Decks season 3. and I assume you are too.
Oh yes.
And I can speak for Zam and Vance. Well, I can't speak for Vance. I don't know his opinion on it per se, but Zam is definitely excited for Lower Decks season 3.
Mm-hmm.
He's really liking Lower Decks. It's his favorite Star Trek. Probably my second favorite. Oh, just there's Deep Space Nine, then there's Lower Decks right now for me, and then maybe Enterprise a little bit further down.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, sorry if y'all hate me. Don't debate me. Okay, so anyway, so with all that being said, I thank everybody for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.
Kapla kabab.
I can't do it with this hand. Catch you later.
Ciao.
And I can't get to the thing.